Hello. We are live today. Welcome to another episode of Poly Side Eye with my best friend Jared. Thank you for coming on so early in the morning. You know, I had to get to his schedule because he's a very busy man.
Always love to make time for Poly Side Eye. So
I appreciate that. Happy election day, y'all. I came from voting like maybe 2 hours ago. Did you vote?
Yes, I voted this morning. So I'm in Pennsylvania, so I'm in the swing state. So I did my thing. So I did my part in saving democracy. So if we wake up and we're all going to Gilead, I did my part.
Right. I mean, I was just saying, you need to vote. I mean, I get it. I get how you feel about Kamala, but just because you're in a swing state, that's the only thing. That's my big deal. It's just like she needs Pennsylvania to win. Like when I visited you, like all it was just political ads after political ads. I think the president was in Philly at the time or Pittsburgh.
She's pretty much lived in Pennsylvania for the last 2 months. She was in Philly last night. I think she was in Pittsburgh yesterday morning. She's been, her and Tim Kaine, they've been pretty much parked in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So
Obama was here last week at Temple. Like, yeah.
And you didn't go?
I didn't even know it happened. Like, I was on, and then it was my mom texting me like the next morning. It was like, "Did you go see Obama?" And I'm like, "Where?" And she was like, "At Temple." And I was like, "Wait, how the fuck do you know that?" But aside from that, I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
So your mom knew, and you were working.
My mom in Louisiana knew that Obama was like a quarter of a mile away from me. I didn't even know it. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, how are you feeling today about Election Day?
You know me. I don't take the whole like the world is falling kind of perspective in elections, and so I'm like, things will happen, but like ultimately I'm one out of however many people are eligible to vote, and so like I did my part. That's all I can do. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna go to work, and that's gonna be that. So I'm interested to see what happens though, because I genuinely don't have any type of like clue as to what to expect.
Yeah. Well, I'm a ball of anxiety right now. I'm definitely going to have some liquor on hand. I'm definitely going to have some marijuana on hand. I'm going to be seated and sedated tonight for this election. I predict that we won't know anything tonight. It's going to be too close to call, and I would say all 7 of the swing states, but we shall see. Like, didn't last election 2020, we didn't know till the weekend?
Yeah, it was like Saturday when we knew for sure. Yeah, because the margins are so razor thin, so they're not going to call anything preemptively. Like usually they only call. So calling elections is interesting. So like the way it works usually is the commissioner of elections or whoever, every state has their own like board of elections type situation, but they usually call like maybe 20 people or so. Usually they're like academics or like pollsters, and they're like, okay, so like based on the votes that have been counted, like where have they been counted, and like statistically, is there a chance that one of the candidates might be able to like overtake the others? What? You said something?
I think your Wi-Fi is a little. Yeah, I said your Wi-Fi is a little like shaky. I'm not sure, but like
I don't really know what to.
Yeah, you kind of pause a little bit.
No, I was just saying, like, pretty much. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, like, pretty much the networks will call like political scientists, pollsters, and stuff, and be like, okay, like, is it mathematically possible for one of the other candidates to like switch places? So, like, the candidate that's in first right now, is it possible for them to like lose based on the votes that have already come in? Like, can we reasonably project them to win? And so like if they get enough yeses from people, that's what they call it. But I think it's going to be so close in Pennsylvania and North Carolina, et cetera, to really know.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, it's probably my internet, y'all. Maybe because he kind of like there's a little lag on my end, but I heard you what you said.
I mean, I have Comcast, like, the highest whatever, so like
I do
I
too.
like
I do too.
I can't do slow internet, so like that's one thing I'm willing to like pay a little bit more on.
Right. Um. So yeah, I've been on 270 to win every election. Like, if y'all don't know what it is, it's this site where they give you an interactive map, and they give you like they put all the states that are obviously red and blue already painted in. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
can like piece together your own map and stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So then like they leave like the swing states blank and you can just figure it out however, every numerical instance of a win. And it just seems like she can't win without Michigan and Wisconsin. Like she can win without Pennsylvania, but it's going to be a little hard. And I feel like if she loses Pennsylvania, then it kind of will be a forecast of what to expect, I think.
Yeah. So the Democrats are the kind of a structural disadvantage when it comes to the Electoral College because there's already like the Republicans have more locked in states. And so because of that, Trump only really needs to win like 3 of the swing states to win, whereas Kamala needs to win like 6. So he can stand to lose like Pennsylvania and like Michigan and still win North Carolina and Wisconsin and all the so she has less wiggle room than he does. But that's a structural feature of the. I wouldn't say structural because, as I've said before, it wasn't always the case that states were locked in terms of like their partisan affiliation. That's really a new development, as in within the last like 25 years.
Look, absolutely, it feels unfair, and that's why the electoral college is in place. I feel like, and we can't change it because that's changing the constitutional amendment, right?
To change, yeah, you would need to like get rid of the electoral college. Yes, you would.
Right. That's
it hasn't always been a structural advantage for Republicans. That's a new political phenomenon. It's always been electoral college has always been undemocratic in the sense that it's not one person, one vote. Like that's always been a problem by design. But in terms of it being a structural advantage for Republicans, that's a pretty recent development. Like I think people write that into history, like that's always been that way, but that has not always been that way. And so if you go look at like elections pre-2000, 2000 is when there was like the flip, essentially.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, like, what topic to go to? Like, anything you wanted to say on this?
Not really. I mean, we can just.
Yeah, I just felt like we need to just do like a pre-election day video just to see like how we feel, like any predictions. And like I said, like I think she's going to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. We shall see. And also, I wanted to open this up to
I don't win Georgia. I don't think Georgia is going to be. I don't think she's going to win Georgia.
Really?
No, not okay. Let me pull up Real Clear Politics. So, for those who don't know, Real Clear Politics is like a polling. It aggregates all of the polls, so it's not just one. It looks at like all of the polls and gives like a polling average. And so, based on the average, I'm looking at it right now. If you take out the toss-ups, right now they have. Oh, this is the Senate. Right now they have Trump based on the most recent polling. It has Trump winning 287 electoral votes to Harris Walters 251. Again, this is an aggregation of all the polls. So it looks at all of the polls and says, okay, based on across all 20 polls that we're averaging, Trump or whoever is up a certain amount. So in Georgia right now, it looks like Trump is up about 0.3 of a point in the average polling. So I mean, still, I would be shocked if she won Georgia. Like, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying every time. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if she won like decisively, like overwhelmingly, like 300 plus electoral votes. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I wouldn't be shocked if she lost overwhelmingly. I wouldn't be surprised if neither of them got 270 and it went to like none of the scenarios would surprise me because the margins are that thin. So, but I don't think she's gonna win Georgia. But I wouldn't be shocked if she did.
So there's nothing that you would be surprised by in this election.
Not. I would be surprised if Trump won like California, like that would surprise me. But nothing completely outside of like the realm of nothing would surprise me. None of that because the margins.
Just hearing this, I'm sure the audience just feels like this just feels very troubling, but have the polls been right in the last election though?
So here's my first off, I'm this might be my hot take, but I actually hate election polls. Like I don't think they should be publicized. Why do we need to know every other day? Like why do we need the horse race? I mean, I get why they have it because it sells. Like we click on it and it drives revenue. So I get why we have it from like the standpoint of capitalism, but from like an actual like social value, like why is knowing this important? Like why do we need to know how other people are voting? Like just vote for you want. Like I don't get it. But whatever. So your question is, has the polls been wrong? Well, my academic answer would be all polls are wrong because they're all just a prediction, and nobody knows the future. So like there is no way to know what's going to happen, and I think we should accept that. Now, how predictive have they been? I will say in the last few elections, they've been less so for a host of reasons. So I think it's harder to reach people now than it used to be. So like back in the day, like you used to call people on their landline. And that's how they would generally poll people. But as people started transitioning to cell phones, it's been harder to reach people, because people don't typically pick up the phone if they don't know who's calling. And now a lot of the polling calls have been marked as spam. And so like you have very, very, very low response rates. And so what you're doing is essentially you are hoping that you can reach 1,000 people. I'm throwing out a number. Reach 1,000 people and think that those 1,000 people that you survey are representative of all of the population in the state in which you're polling. So like if they call 1,000 people in Pennsylvania, the idea behind polling is that, okay, these 1,000 people reflect the demographic breakdown of Pennsylvania such that we can assume that if a 35-year-old Black man that we talk to on the phone is voting for Kamala, we can assume that most Black men who are 35 in Pennsylvania are voting. So there's a lot of assumptions baked into polling. I don't love polling for a host of reasons. I don't think we should follow them. I don't think we should have them, but we do. So I would say, I think part of the reason that they've gotten less predictable is because it's harder to reach people. So you have way more margin for error. And some people just lie. Like some people just don't. Some people view voting as like a private thing and would rather not tell people who they're voting for. So like, how much people are lying is like an empirical question. So like in 2016, there was like this shy Trump voter theory, which was that people who were secretly supporting Trump were lying to pollsters and telling them they were going to vote for Hillary or not vote at all. There is like mixed evidence on that. So it's kind of hard to know like how much people lie. So there used to be this other thing called the Bradley effect, where people, especially like white voters, would say that they were voting for the Black candidate, and then when they got in the booth, would vote for the white one. So like the Black candidate would be up like 7 points in the poll and then lose the election by like 3 points. And people could be like, well, how is there like a 10-point swing in the poll into the booth? And they'd be like, oh, well, people were just lying and saying that they were going to vote for a Black person, even though they knew they wouldn't. That seems to be less of a thing now. But there's also human beings are not numbers. Like we're sentient and do all kind of contradictory things. So
why was it called the Bradley effect?
Because it was named after I can't remember his first name. I think he was running for, it was a guy running for governor. I can't remember which state. I want to say it was California. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was named after so there was a Black guy named Tom Bradley, who was the mayor of Los Angeles, who ran for governor in 1982. And he was up in the polls and he lost the election to this white guy. And people were like, well, how did he lose the election? He was up like 8 points in the poll. And then they found out that all these white people in California were saying that they were going to vote for him. And then they did.
Right.
So
just speaking of that,
Brady saw is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. And just speaking of that, I feel like with this election, we can't win it without white people. And it just really depends on how white people feel about Kamala Harris. I think that's just like a harsh reality. And again, I'm not going to underestimate the level of racism in this country and misogyny. Like, I know there's some Black men that won't vote for her strictly because she's a woman. Men overall, I feel like. So I don't know. That's what just has me worried. Like, basically people saying that, I'm going to vote for Kamala, but they're not going to.
So the biggest predictor of like who you vote for is your partisan affiliation. So typically, if you identify as a Democrat, you vote Democrat. It doesn't matter who is on the ticket. Same is true for Republicans. So I think some of that is like overstated. Sure, there are some people who will never vote for a woman or whatever demographic category here, but like generally that's a very small subset of the population. Now, is it a big enough subset to be decisive? It's really unknowable because we don't even have any way of knowing who people actually voted for. So like there is no way to like empirically verify that. Also, like I just saw you had your "I voted" sticker on. You're so civic minded. How cute. But when I was walking out of the my precinct, this like older Black woman was like, you want your sticker? And I was like, I don't want a fucking sticker. But I couldn't tell her that because she was like, old Black woman and was like super excited to be doing her civic duty and like whatever. So I like took the sticker. I didn't have the heart to be like, I'm just gonna throw it in the trash the first time I come up to a garbage can. But I took the sticker. But yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about our polling experiences. So I had the privilege today of voting in my building. And it's on the 3rd floor, but even that line was long. So I was just thinking to myself, well, damn, like if it's long here, like I just can only imagine what it's like in the swing states. So then the people in the line, like it was just so many progressive white people in the line, and it just cheered me up just a little bit. Like this white woman behind me, she's just like, oh my God, I just really hope Kamala wins. And I was just like, thank you, white woman.
Now, it would be so funny if she got in the booth and she was like, fuck that Black bitch. I'm voting for Trump.
Well,
no, I don't think that's the
case. In front of me was 2 older Black women. Looked like they were about at least 70, both of them. And like, I was just happy to see that. And it was just like so many different people of different, backgrounds in line. It was nice to see. I know you hate the whole like optimist thing, but it's just
okay. So like people are gonna think I'm just being a fun sucker. Like you can like whatever you like. I've said before, like I don't believe what you want, do what you want, be happy about what you want. If Kamala wins, y'all want to pop a bottle, like I don't care. Like I don't care. Like I'm not a rain in the parade person. I just am not moved by the whole ordeal. Yeah, so like have your fun.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, was your line long today? Because you voted today, right?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it got when so I got there before the precinct opened. So the precinct opened at 7. I got there like 6:50. So there was maybe like 15, 20 people in front of me. After now when I came out, the line had probably like quadrupled. So I guess people were starting to like line up. But it took me maybe like 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most.
Yeah.
The most I was like waiting before it was even open. So it didn't take long at all.
Yeah, it took me about 20 minutes. But the line was long, even though it's people that's in my building as well as people in the surrounding areas too. Also, y'all, feel free to ask a question. I also have this open as a Q&A. We have a political scientist in the room. That's a great privilege to have. Jared knows his shit, even though he can be, quite the cynic, which, I love.
I'm not cynical. I'm not cynical.
Like, well, you're realistic.
Yes, I am very realistic, but I'm here because you're always gonna get you're gonna get the Disney-fied version of everything on TV. So the reason what I try to do is just leave people nuggets with things to think about. You don't have to agree with it. Don't care if you do. Not offended if you don't. Like I'm just here to like give you a dose of like reality, and then you can go and you'd be like, oh, he's on one today. I'm just not here for it. That's fine. Like.
I would just like to say we have over 100 people in the classroom today. Make sure you like the video and then follow Jared on social media. Just while y'all all are here, Make sure y'all like the video because YouTube's algorithm is a hating ass bitch. So I'm just saying. And also share the video too. Anyway, let me just see what some people are saying in the chat. I'll be keeping myself updated from the UK. Oh, how privileged you are. We were under
the UK is in worse position, worse shape in the States right now.
We were under conservative power for 14 years until this year when we finally did the right thing. So here's hoping the annoying orange isn't voted back in. Maybe this is a lazy take or observation, but if a white woman didn't win in 2016, what are the chances of a non-Black woman winning?
I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but I think it depends on the context. So like people pretty much said the same thing about Obama in 2008, and then like we won decisively. They were like, oh, okay. So I remember I'm old enough to remember like leading up to it, like people, even like my mom was like, there's no way I'm this. And so like if Kamala loses, I don't think that's gonna be the reason. It might be among the reasons, but I don't think that's gonna be the decisive one.
Do you think the whole I hate to say the G word on here because you'd be listening and the monetization, but the whole protesting because of what's going on in Gaza, you think that's going to hurt her?
Potentially. Like, it's just the question is like, does it hurt her enough to like sway the election? Now that I don't think so, just because the Green Party doesn't really have the organizational kind of framework to be able to like really like stage a sizable turnout. So I mean, if it comes down to 10,000 votes, maybe, but like other than that, I don't think so.
Jared, can you give us a list of your fave poli-sci books?
Oh god, this is so hard. I have to like think about that.
Well, remember I told you.
Let me think about that one.
Yeah,
actually, most of my favorite books are not political science books. They're usually like philosophy books. Sorry, or history books.
What do you think about RFK being over public health?
What do you think about I don't understand the question. Like,
I think Trump said if he wins, he's going to put RFK.
Like over what? Like the Department of Health and Human Service? Like what over?
I believe so. That's what Trump said.
I mean, so I don't want to say cabinet positions don't matter. They do, like to an extent, but the bureaucracy is so vast and almost kind of self-sufficient that it's not really it's not really as top down as people think. And so like when I was in grad school, I had to take a class called The Politics of the Bureaucracy. And we learned about all these different agencies and like how they all were like a network and like who responds to whom and like where they, how's the funding kind of schema set up and like how many people are employed and what's the hierarchy, et cetera, et cetera. Like a lot of these cabinet positions and a lot of these departments and things and offices in DC are like almost entirely self-contained. Like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter who the president is, but like, it doesn't matter as much as people think.
Jared, another poli-sci student here. What's your thought on single issue voting in this election?
My perspective on this is I think people should like decide for themselves. I'm not people should do this kind of, and Chris knows, like I never give like you should do this advice. Like that's just not the way that I roll. Like I think people should decide for themselves like what issues are most important to them, and like that if that's the thing that you want to like invest your energy in, like and then voting accordingly, like I'm okay with that. So like there's some people who are like, what's going on in where we know, I don't want us to get demonetized, what's going on in that part of the world is like that important to me. So like I'm not going to be upset with you if that's that. Like there's some people who are like, abortion is that important to me, I don't care about anything else. Some people are like, getting my tax cut is this important to me. So like I can't tell you, I don't know I don't know your life, I don't know your resources, I don't know what's going on. And so like I don't feel comfortable being like people should emphasize one issue over others. Like that's your decision to make.
Do you think Kamala taking 5 million from Israel will affect her? I think she's losing voters here in Philly for that.
It might matter, but like I don't think in the grand scheme. Again, it's not if she loses, it's not gonna be because of that.
Oh, Melissa's question, and I feel like we did a whole video on this. Do you think celebrity endorsements will have as much of an impact on voters' position as they used to, i.e., Joe Rogan doing a last-minute endorsement of Trump yesterday?
No, not at all. The evidence in on the impact of celebrity endorsements is as close to being non-existent as is possible. Like there's been tons of people who have done all sorts of studies on these things, and the overwhelming evidence is that celebrity endorsements, with rare exception, do not really make a difference. I've tried to like explain this before because I think we tend to think that, I guess, we're more sheepish than we would like to think, but like human beings, it's actually really hard to change human beings' minds. I mean, we know this from personal experience. So like it's hard to get us to change our minds on anything. So like what makes us think like all it's gonna take is Joe Rogan saying on his podcast and he's voting for Trump to get like to have this like monumental effect? I think that most of the psychology that bears out on like the way that we cognitively take in information and then like in turn like like shapes our behavior. Like the evidence is not in favor of celebrity endorsements mattering.
This is just a comment, but I think I agree with this. Like, it's dangerously naive to think that Congress or bureaucracy will be the same as it historically was under a second Trump presidency.
Okay, so people are completely not. That's not what I said. I didn't say that it didn't matter. I said it doesn't matter to the extent that people think it does. Because if you understand the structure of the bureaucracy, this is very intentional, by the way. Like part of the reason we have a bureaucracy is to kind of part of it was kind of accidental. Like we didn't intend to have like this big bureaucracy. A lot of it came out of World War II and the Great Depression, New Deal era, but also during the Johnson presidency. But like now, like the bureaucracy it's like lifelong bureaucrats. And so like a lot of them, especially like defense and like the State Department, like those things are like the reason our foreign policy doesn't really change regardless of who's in office is because the State Department and the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the defense and all of them, they are pretty much they are so insulated from like what everyday life essentially that they just kind of do their own thing. Like sure, we might have stuff like under Trump we might get more government shutdowns, and so like people who work in the bureaucracy might be furloughed or like may not get paid. So I'm not saying it won't have any effect. It's just that I think we underestimate the degree to which the United States' political economy is in a lot of respects is, I don't want to say automatic, but it kind of is in a way. It's what economists call spontaneous. I think there's a lot more spontaneity than people realize.
I also think just with Trump having, if he has a second presidency, like who's going to put him in check? And then I think about the Supreme Court being overwhelmingly like, harshly conservative. And then I think of January 6th, like it's going to be like he's a king or like we're going to be right into fascism. And I just think people don't think of that.
That's not the way I tend to think of it. So like, why do people think that Trump represents an existential threat? It's not really what he's doing in government. Like if you look at most of his policies, Trump is pretty much like, all right, I'm going to get in here. If you're rich, like I'm going to make it easy, like pass whatever tax cut you want. And I'm just going to like essentially give voice to the white evangelicals and like the problem. So there is that. So he does serve as kind of a muse for anxieties that people have in the country, and people should be angry in America. Like the fact that we don't let people be angry about the state of the economy when literally since COVID, like the top 0.1% in America has pretty much quadrupled their wealth, while everybody else's wages, with the exception of people at the very bottom, has pretty much fallen because of inflation. So like people have a right to be angry. Now, a lot of the anger is misplaced. And the reason it's misplaced is because there is no space to talk about any of these things anywhere, because we don't have communities anymore. Like people are very isolated. Obviously, they're not going to talk about this in the news. Like the things we discuss on Poli Sada when I'm always talking about like private equity and how it's like destroying the healthcare system and like education, all these things, like that's not going to be discussed anywhere. So people are experiencing these things, but don't have any way to express it aside from essentially Trump. So from that standpoint, it is troublesome that he serves that role. But that's why I'm always saying, like, if there was just somebody who could like reason with people and be like, okay, this is really what's going on. It doesn't really do you any good to scapegoat. I know we live in America where everybody thinks that you are where you are because of what you did or didn't do, but that's not the way it works because we have inheritance and which is left over from feudal society. So like that's not the reality. That's not the reality of the situation. So like the reality of the situation is we have a political economy that is by design oriented towards property holders, which are disproportionately people in the top 10%. Not because they hate you, but because that's the way that it was designed like almost 3 centuries ago. So like if there was somebody who could just say all of that and be like, Trump isn't going to do anything about that. So that doesn't make any sense to like care about that. Kamala isn't either, which is why we need to be more strategic about how we move out of this, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I actually think people will be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, show us the way. But like, who's going to do that? Because there's just too much risk associated with doing. I mean, look at the people the people who leaked about what was going on in Boeing, like they got assassinated. So like people know like there's a cost associated with like telling the truth on like a large scale, but like that's really what needs to happen. And Trump doesn't tell the truth, obviously, but like he says what a lot of people want to hear, and like that's really dangerous. But from the standpoint of like day-to-day like bureaucracy, like Trump really wasn't that. He pretty much just did the same thing that everybody has been doing for the last like 4 decades, which is cutting taxes on corporations and the wealthy and screwing everybody else. Sorry, I didn't say that to be such a small box, but
no, it's fine. You were dropping a lot of gems, and I don't mind. This is a platform. Like this specific show is for people to think and just think outside of the box, because, like you said, like they're not going to hear this information on the news, unfortunately. But yeah, with that said, like I was just thinking, like, why aren't you running for politics? Like, why can't like we get you in the room, in the situation room with Kamala, with Biden, or whatever? Like, and even if you don't want to be president, maybe like a damn advisor or something. Because I just feel like it's all common sense, you know?
I mean, every time I talk, the crazy thing is I talk to a lot of people who identify as Democrat, Republican, whatever. And when I explain to them like why I'm socialist, and they're all like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." Because I'm like, my politics is a very like practical politics. Like there actually is a lot of harm that comes from allowing wealthy people to just keep accumulating wealth, like ad infinitum. So like I'm trying to like explain to people, okay, if you don't want to have to pay a crazy amount for healthcare and your dental insurance and insurance and all these other things and education, like you're never gonna like you have to like be open to hearing something different, because the solutions that are going to be offered under capitalism are going to be inadequate. Not because people are yes, people lie, yes, they have ill intentions, but it's just the way that that specific way of organizing the economy it's just not conducive to anything egalitarian anymore. Like it was for a little bit at one time, but like even America's most egalitarian period, the post-World War II period, had a huge asterisk next to it, which is that Black people couldn't participate in it. So like, when has there ever been a moment where liberal capitalism has shown that it can be egalitarian? Like, I'm waiting for somebody to tell me that. And so like, it's not like radical.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments.
Like, I really want to know. Like, there's been like the most egalitarian period in American history that people always point to, like in the late 1930s, 40s, 50s. I'm like, yeah, but like the only reason that white middle class families could have what they had is because you had to exclude literally like a huge chunk of the population. Like that's the only way that works. And so like capitalism is always having to exclude somebody. And the thing is, it's just going to increasingly exclude more and more people because wealthy people still want to make their money. So like, where y'all think the money come from? Like, it's a zero-sum game under capitalism. So as the wealthy become wealthier, everybody else becomes poorer. And like, sure, like that might you might be able to tweak at the margins here or there, but like you're gonna be back in the same position. So like what happened after in 2020? So like why do we have an inflation? This is a slightly off topic, but like also I'm gonna bring it back. So why do we have an inflation in 2021? It wasn't an act of nature. Employers knew, big companies knew, corporations knew that people had disposable income because the government had just cut checks and given people all this unemployment. And so they were like, well, like people have too much, so let's take some of it back. That's all that inflation is. It's devaluing your money. So like it's not devaluing everybody's money, because if you have assets, that grew. The stock market grew. The stock market is a reflection of wealthy people's assets. That has been growing. Wages is a reflection of everybody else's like income, and you see that's gone down until very recently, where there's been some union organizing at the bottom. But like the inflation wasn't by accident. In fact, McKinsey, so if you've heard of this, the firm McKinsey, they released a report, you can go Google it, it's called Rapid Revenue Recovery. So like in summer of 2020, McKinsey, like, which is a consulting firm, was like sent this executive report to these corporations and told them like, okay, start raising your prices, because if you don't, people are going to start like saving and stuff, and that's going to be bad for your wealth accumulation. So like start hiking prices. Now that was like what, so there was some inflation that was rooted in like the war in Ukraine and stuff, and but even that like was very intentional, because a lot of the oil companies raised prices before they even knew they were going to need to raise prices. So like they just used the pandemic and like the government money as an excuse to essentially steal from the working classes. And then the gag of it all is, and they went on to blame the checks. They blame the checks for causing the inflation. I'm just like, that's the insidious thing, that they blame working people for the inflation. They said y'all have too much money to spend, so like it's y'all's fault that y'all have to pay $8 for eggs that y'all used to pay $4 for. It's y'all's fault because y'all went on these shopping sprees, and which that's not where most people spent their money. Most people spent their money on paying down debts and like bills for the most part. So like the whole pretense was ridiculous, but nobody discussed this on CNN. Nobody discussed this on MSNBC. Nobody discussed this in the New York Times. And all you have to do is literally go to these corporations' website where they publish a lot of this stuff and like see it's all right there. And so I'm like, where's the person that can like do that? Explain that.
Well, thank you for throwing out gem after gem after gem. Here's one more question, because we actually talked about this when I was in Philly. Like, what are the reasons today isn't a federal holiday? Like, I literally asked you that question because I'm like, Christopher fucking Columbus Day is a federal holiday, you know? And I'm like, how easy would it be if, you know, no one had to worry about going to work today and just go and vote, you know? Like, it makes sense, and it's never happened.
Well, part of the reason like we don't have a lot of federal holidays is because for federal holidays you have to pay people, and like people don't want to pay people to work for days that they aren't actually working. So like there's a built-in incentive not to support it if you are a capitalist, because you don't want to have to pay people to not work. Like that is completely that's like ghastly if you're a capitalist. So like there's that element. But we have to also remember we don't really have many federal holidays, and it's very rare that they get passed. Juneteenth was the most recent federal holiday since MLK Day, and that was in 1983, I believe. So like it had been literally almost 40 years since we had another holiday added to the calendar. And the only reason we got Juneteenth is because they were like, well, we got to do the black something or else they'll just keep rioting in the street. So like give them Juneteenth, get them off of our backs, we'll deal with it. But even in that provision, there was a lot of there's a lot of footnotes to it, like a lot of exceptions written into the bill. So like there's ways for employers to kind of back out of it. So like even Juneteenth was like a very provisional holiday.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember when I asked you what was the last federal holiday, and we found out that it was something else?
MLK Day.
It was? It wasn't something after that?
I don't think so. I mean, I know I think they changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day officially, but I don't think there's been anything since then. We can double check.
Yeah, I remember like we were talking about it.
Yeah, I thought I said MLK Day. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's see. Federal holidays in the U.S. List of federal holidays. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Date established. Yep. MLK Day was November 2nd, 1983. Before that, it was Memorial Day, which is in 1968. Yep, MLK Day. That was the last holiday before Juneteenth.
Damn. And then I guess our last topic, because we're at the 40-minute mark. Outside of the presidency, like, what do you think about like where the House and Senate is going? Because isn't that kind of decided to on election day?
So last let's see what Real Clear Politics says. So Real Clear Politics has pretty much a statistical toss-up for the House, and then for the Senate, it looks like Republicans are supposed to have, Republicans 1 seat margin, so 51-49. And so we'd have divided government if Kamala wins, which is not really conducive to doing anything, really. I mean, Congress barely does anything when they have a all control, when one party controls all.
Look, because when it was all blue, we had a chance. But when was the last time like it was blue down the line?
Blue down the line.
Like,
you mean
blue Senate?
Yeah, Obama 08. I'm trying to think if, I think Obama 08, because I think Biden. No, I mean technically, you mean filibuster proof or just a majority?
Majority.
Okay, because Biden had for the first 2 years, Biden had didn't he have the Senate and the House for his first 2 years?
I feel like it was a filibuster. Like they had the filibuster vote with Kamala.
So I'm pretty sure he had the House for his first term. I think he lost in the midterms. I want to say I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that he had for 2 years. I think he had Kamala tie-breaking vote and then a very slim majority in the House. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I always side-eye Obama on that because that was the window to get so much done.
Yeah, he got done what he wanted to get done, which is to take care of his Wall Street donors.
We won't get into that. But yes, y'all, if y'all have not voted, especially if you're in a swing state, please go vote for Kamala. I ain't about to say, oh, vote for the Green Party. No, like vote for Kamala Harris. I sponsor this message. This is my channel. Like, yes, go vote for Kamala Harris. Anyway, yeah. If you want to follow Jared, of course, it's right under there. You can see it, JC Tiger fan. I'm glad you put that in parentheses now.
Yeah, I was like, because it was just easier. So,
yeah. Obama wasn't a leftist. He was a corporatist, Chris.
Thank you. Hey. Thank you for speaking truth. Thank you.
Let me see. Jared's thoughts on Dems getting rid of the filibuster if they win.
Not happening.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Not happening.
But yeah, so just to let y'all know, while we have over 100 people in the room, we will be doing another episode this week when we get the results. Lord have mercy. Like, I just know. Look, I have my weed again. I will be seated and sedated tonight. But yeah, we will be back for better or worse. So yeah. With that, make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see y'all for that next video. Bye.